Captain Do-hyun Kim stood at the bridge of the Earth Defense Force ship Determination, watching the massive space station grow larger in the main screen. The station was home to the Galactic Council, where 17 different alien species made decisions about the galaxy's future. Today, humans would try to join them. "Captain, we're receiving docking instructions," said Lieutenant Ta-won at the communication station. His fingers moved quickly over the control panel as he processed the incoming data. Do-hyun nodded and straightened his dark blue uniform. "Send confirmation and begin docking procedures." He turned to look at Ambassador Jae-yun Park, who stood quietly beside him. "Are you ready, Ambassador?" Jae-yun smiled slightly. She wore a simple but elegant white diplomatic uniform with the Earth Defense Force patch on her shoulder. "As ready as I'll ever be, Captain. Let's show them what humanity is all about." The Determination was Earth's newest and most advanced spaceship. It had taken humans 50 years to develop faster-than-light travel and another 10 years to build this ship. Now, they were finally ready to join the galactic community. As the ship moved closer to the docking bay, Do-hyun could see other alien ships nearby. Some were huge, 5 or 6 times bigger than the Determination. Others were small and sleek, looking more like deep space predators than ships. Each one showed the different ways intelligent life had developed in the galaxy. The docking process went smoothly. Do-hyun led a small team including Ambassador Jae-yun and 3 other crew members, Security Chief Sun Mi-cho, Engineer Hae-nul Lee, and Medical Officer Jin-woo Park. They walked through the connecting tunnel to the space station. 2 alien officials waited for them at the station's entrance. They were Aetherians, tall, slim beings with silvery skin and large dark eyes. They wore flowing robes covered in symbols that seemed to move in the light. "Welcome to the Galactic Council Station," said the taller Aetherian in perfect English. "I am First Greeter Ixel, and this is Second Greeter Mira. We will escort you to the council chamber." As they walked through the station's wide corridors, Do-hyun noticed how different everything was from human design. The walls curved in strange ways, and lights pulsed in patterns he couldn't understand. Other alien species passed them in the hallways. Some looked almost human, while others were completely different. Floating clouds of gas, crystalline beings that clicked as they moved, and creatures that seemed to shift between solid and liquid forms. The human group kept their faces neutral, but Do-hyun could sense their excitement and nervousness. This was what humanity had dreamed of for centuries, proof that they weren't alone in the universe, and a chance to join a larger community of intelligent life. They reached a massive door that opened silently into the council chamber. The room was circular, with raised platforms arranged in a spiral pattern. On each platform sat representatives from different alien species. The lighting changed constantly, apparently adjusting to match the comfort needs of each species. "The human delegation from Earth," announced First Greeter Ixel. All eyes in the room turned to look at them. Do-hyun felt the weight of their stares, but kept his posture straight and professional. He noticed some of the alien representatives making what he assumed were surprised or dismissive gestures. A large, insect-like being stepped forward from one of the higher platforms. Its outer shell was deep purple, and its 4 arms moved in precise, military-like motions. "I am High Commander Vex of the Vesperi Defense Force," it said, its voice translated by hidden speakers. "We are interested to see that humans have managed to achieve faster-than-light travel." The way it said interested made it clear that the Vesperi were not impressed. Do-hyun noticed Security Chief Sun Mi tense slightly beside him. Ambassador Jae-yun stepped forward and bowed respectfully. "Thank you for allowing us to present ourselves to the Council. Earth is honored to seek membership in your community." A ripple of what sounded like laughter moved through the chamber. High Commander Vex's antennae twitched. "You seem very fragile. How does your species handle the dangers of space travel? Your bodies appear to have no natural armor or protective features." Before Jae-yun could answer, another voice spoke up. This one belonged to a being that looked like a collection of floating lights. "High Commander, Let us not judge too quickly. Many species have surprised us before. Of course, Counselor Tell, said Vex, though its posture remained dismissive. Please, Ambassador, tell us about humanity's achievements. Jai-Yun activated a small holographic projector she had brought. Images of Earth and human achievements appeared in the air. Humanity has evolved to be adaptable rather than specialized, she explained. While we may lack natural armor, we can survive in a wider range of conditions than many species. Our technology has developed to complement our natural abilities. As Jai-Yun continued her presentation, Do-Hyun watched the council members' reactions. Most seemed politely interested, but the Vesperi delegation kept making those dismissive gestures. He knew that humans probably looked weak to them. No claws, no armor, no obvious weapons. But he also knew that appearances could be deceiving. The presentation lasted about an hour. Jai-Yun explained human history, culture, and technological achievements. She answered questions about everything from human biology to Earth's political systems. Some of the questions seemed designed to point out human weaknesses, but she handled them all with calm professionalism. Finally, the head of the council, a being that looked like an elderly tree with glowing leaves, spoke. We will consider Earth's application for membership. For now, you are granted observer status. You may dock your ship at the station and interact with other species here. We will inform you of our final decision within one standard galactic month. It wasn't full membership, but it was a start. As they left the chamber, Do-Hyun heard High Commander Vex speaking to another Vesperi. Such soft creatures. They won't last long out here. Do-Hyun smiled slightly to himself. If there was one thing humans were good at, it was proving others wrong about their capabilities. He had a feeling the galaxy was about to learn some interesting lessons about judging by appearances. Back on the Determination, the crew settled in for their month-long wait. Engineer Hae-Newell immediately began studying the station's fascinating technology, while Medical Officer Jinwoo started analyzing the medical data they'd been given about other species. Security Chief Sunmai set up a careful watch rotation, not fully trusting their new allies yet. Do-Hyun sat in his captain's chair, looking out at the strange ships surrounding them. He thought about all the stories humans had written about meeting aliens, all the ways they had imagined this moment. Somehow, reality was both more wonderful and more challenging than any of those stories. The galaxy, it seemed, was full of wonders, but also full of those who would underestimate humanity. That was fine with him. Sometimes, being underestimated was the greatest advantage of all. Ambassador Jai-Yun joined him on the bridge, looking tired but satisfied. Well, Captain, we've made our first impression. What do you think? Do-Hyun thought carefully before answering. I think we've shown them exactly what they expected to see. A young, perhaps naive species taking its first steps into the galaxy. The question is, what will they see when they look closer? Jai-Yun smiled. That, Captain, is exactly what I'm counting on. Sometimes the best way to show your strength is to let others discover it for themselves. As the Earth's sun became just another distant star in the view screen, both of them knew that humanity's greatest test was just beginning. The galaxy thought they were seeing humanity's first steps. They didn't realize they were seeing the calm before the storm. A storm that would show just how terrifying humans could be when they needed to be. 2 weeks had passed since the human delegation arrived at the Galactic Council station. Captain Do-Hyun Kim sat in the station's observation deck, watching the endless stream of ships coming and going. Engineer Hae-Newell sat beside him, taking notes on a tablet about each ship's design. The Vesperi ships are interesting, Hae-Newell said quietly. Their armor is impressive, but they sacrifice speed for protection. I wonder if that affects their response time in emergencies. Before Do-Hyun could respond, all the lights in the station turned red. A deep, resonating alarm echoed through the corridors. Alien species of all kinds began moving quickly, some speaking in urgent tones. Emergency Council Session, announced a voice in multiple languages. All representatives report immediately. Do-Hyun, and Haenul hurried to the council chamber. They found Ambassador Jayun already there, standing with the other observer species. The chamber was filled with tense energy. The head of the council, the tree-like being called Elder Sage, raised his glowing branches for silence. We have received a distress signal from Mining Colony Station Beta 7. The situation is critical. A hologram appeared in the center of the chamber. It showed a large space station built into an asteroid. Parts of the station were flashing red, indicating danger zones. 3 days ago, the colony discovered something in their deepest mining shaft. Elder Sage continued. It was a nest of Axar parasites, a species we thought was extinct. The parasites broke free and have overtaken the lower levels of the station. 5,000 colonists are trapped in the upper levels, and their life support systems are failing. Murmurs of fear spread through the chamber. Du-hyun noticed that even the mighty Vesperi seemed troubled by this news. Xar parasites are nearly impossible to kill, explained a crystalline being from one of the upper platforms. They adapt to energy weapons, can survive in space, and reproduce quickly. The last time we encountered them, we had to destroy an entire moon to stop their spread. High Commander Vex stepped forward, his purple shell gleaming. The Vesperi Defense Force volunteers to handle this crisis. We have the strongest armor and the most advanced weapons. We will rescue the colonists and eliminate the threat. This is not a simple military operation, warned Counselor Tell, the being of floating lights. The last encounter with Xar parasites cost thousands of lives. We are not like the others, Vex said proudly. The Vesperi fear nothing. We will show you how a true warrior race handles this threat. Do-hyun stood up. Earth offers its assistance as well. The chamber went quiet. Then several alien species made sounds that seemed like laughter. High Commander Vex's antennae twitched in what Do-hyun had learned was amusement. With respect, Captain Kim, Vex said, not sounding respectful at all. This is not a task for less developed species. Your soft bodies would not last 5 minutes against the parasites. Leave this to those who are better equipped. Ambassador Jayun stepped forward. Humanity has extensive experience in crisis management and rescue operations. We may be able to offer valuable insights. The Vesperi Defense Force has handled countless crises, Vex replied. We do not need advice from newcomers who have barely left their own solar system. Elder Sage raised his branches again. Time is critical. High Commander, you may proceed with your rescue operation. The human delegation may observe from a safe distance, as may other interested parties. The Vesperi moved quickly. Within 2 hours, 3 of their largest battleships had departed for the mining colony. The Determination followed at a respectful distance, along with ships from several other species who wanted to observe. During the journey, Do-hyun gathered his senior staff in the ship's conference room. Engineer Haenul pulled up the data they had been given about the mining colony and the parasites. The colony's design is actually quite similar to some of Earth's deep-sea research stations, Haenul explained. The same principles apply: maintaining pressure, managing air supply, controlling access between sections. Medical Officer Jinwoo studied the parasite data with great interest. These creatures are fascinating. They seem to operate like a combination of Earth's ants and certain deep-sea predators. They work together, but can also survive independently. Their ability to adapt to energy weapons suggests some kind of distributed nervous system. Security Chief Sun Mai had been quiet, watching the Vesperi ships through the view screen. They're going to fail, she said suddenly. Everyone turned to look at her. What makes you say that? Do-hyun asked. I've been watching their training exercises at the station, Sun Mai explained. The Vesperi are powerful and well-equipped, but they're inflexible. They follow strict protocols and never deviate. Against an enemy that adapts quickly, that's a deadly weakness. Ambassador Jayun nodded slowly. They're also overconfident. They dismissed all warnings and refused to consider alternative strategies. Keep watching and stay ready, Do-hyun ordered. If Sun Mai is right, Those colonists will need a backup plan. They reached the mining colony 16 hours later. The Vesperi wasted no time. Their ships took up attack positions around the station, and soon hundreds of armored Vesperi warriors were heading toward the colony in transport vessels. The humans watched through the station's security feeds, which the Vesperi had graciously allowed them to access, probably to show off their superior abilities. At first, everything seemed to be going according to the Vesperi plan. The warriors moved through the station's corridors in perfect formation, their energy weapons ready. They reached the first group of parasites and opened fire. The creatures, each about the size of a large dog, fell quickly to the energy blasts. "Too easy," muttered Sun Mai, leaning forward in her chair. She was right. The next group of parasites they encountered took more hits to bring down. By the third encounter, the energy weapons were barely affecting them. The parasites had adapted, just as the Council had warned. The Vesperi responded by switching to their backup weapons and maintaining their strict formation. But the parasites had also changed their attack pattern. Instead of coming in waves, they now attacked from multiple directions, including from above and below through the station's maintenance tunnels. "They're learning," Haynul said, pointing to his screen. "Look at their movement patterns. They're not just adapting biologically, they're adapting tactically." The Vesperi formation began to break. Warriors in their heavy armor couldn't turn quickly enough to face attacks from multiple directions. Their strict protocols didn't account for an enemy that changed its tactics mid-battle. Within hours, the proud Vesperi force was in retreat. Their armor had protected them from casualties, but they had made no progress toward reaching the trapped colonists. Worse, the parasites had now spread to more levels of the station. Back in the council chamber, High Commander Vex was trying to maintain his dignity. "We will regroup and return with heavier weapons. The situation is under control. The colonists have less than 30 hours of life support remaining," Counselor Tell pointed out. "A second failed assault will doom them." Do-hyun stood up again. "Let humanity try." This time, there was no laughter. The aliens had just watched their strongest military force retreat in defeat. Now they looked at the humans with a mixture of pity and curiosity. "You saw what happened to our warriors," Vex said. "What could you possibly do that we couldn't?" "Something different," Do-hyun replied simply. "Sometimes the strongest approach isn't the best one. Sometimes you need to think like a survivor, not a warrior." Elder Sage's leaves glowed brighter as he considered this. Finally, he spoke. "The humans may make their attempt. We have nothing left to lose." As Do-hyun and his team left to prepare, he heard Vex say to another council member, "They're going to their deaths. At least they'll die bravely." Do-hyun smiled slightly. The Vesperi and the other aliens still didn't understand. Humans weren't going to fight the parasites on their terms. They weren't going to try to overpower them. The observation room on the Determination was silent as Engineer Haynul studied the station's schematics. He had been watching the Vesperi attack carefully, and now he saw patterns that others had missed. "Look here," he said, pointing to a section of the map. "The parasites aren't moving randomly. They're following the station's heat patterns." Captain Do-hyun moved closer to look. The screen showed heat signatures throughout the station, with the parasites clustering in the warmer areas. "They're cold-blooded," Medical Officer Jinwoo said, his eyes lighting up with understanding. "They seek heat for energy. That's why they're spreading upward. They're following the heat from the life support systems where the colonists are hiding." Security Chief Sun Mi nodded. The Vesperi's powered armor was probably attracting them too. Every time they moved in formation, they were like a beacon. The humans watched as the Vesperi prepared for their second attempt. Despite the Council's warnings, High Commander Vex had ordered his forces to attack again, this time with stronger weapons and heavier armor. "They haven't learned anything," Ambassador Jae-yun said quietly. "They're just doing the same thing with bigger guns." The second Vesperi attack began 6 hours after the first. Their warriors moved through the station's corridors in tight formations, their new weapons glowing with energy. The parasites seemed to retreat at first, and Vex's voice came through the communication system, full of pride. "You see," he announced to all watching ships, "superior firepower is the answer. The creatures run from our might." Hanul shook his head. "They're not running. They're surrounding them." He was right. The parasites had split into smaller groups, moving through maintenance tunnels and air vents. The Vesperi, focused on pushing forward, didn't notice they were being encircled. The attack came from all directions at once. Parasites dropped from ceiling panels and burst from floor grates. The Vesperi's heavy armor, which had protected them before, now made it impossible to react quickly enough. "Fall back," Vex ordered, his voice no longer proud. Defensive formation. But there was no falling back. The parasites had cut off their retreat. The Vesperi warriors found themselves trapped in small groups, fighting desperately as their weapons grew less effective with each shot. "The parasites are learning even faster now," Jin Wu observed. "They're not just adapting to the weapons, they're adapting to the Vesperi tactics. Look how they target the squad leaders first." The second attack ended worse than the first. The Vesperi managed to retreat only because they used explosive charges to clear paths back to their ships, causing serious damage to parts of the station in the process. In the council chamber, the mood was grim. The Vesperi's failure had shown just how dangerous the parasites were. Several council members were now suggesting that destroying the station might be the only option. "We can't sacrifice 5,000 colonists," Councillor Tell argued. "Better to lose 5,000 than risk these creatures spreading," another council member responded. "If they reach any populated system..." High Commander Vex stood silent, his proud stance gone. His forces had suffered their first major defeat in centuries, and he had no more ideas. "The humans have been very quiet," Elder Sage noted, turning his glowing branches toward Du-hyun. "Have you nothing to say?" Du-hyun stepped forward. "We've been watching and learning. We think we know how to save the colonists." "You've seen what these creatures can do," Vex said bitterly. "Our strongest weapons barely hurt them. Our best warriors couldn't stop them. What can you possibly do?" "We can think like prey," Sun Mai said, speaking up unexpectedly. The council chamber went quiet. The aliens stared at the humans in confusion. "Explain," Elder Sage commanded. Hanul activated a holographic display of the station. "Every species in this room evolved as a predator," he said. "The Vesperi, the Etherians, even the energy beings, you all developed as hunters. But humans, we started as prey. Our ancestors survived by outsmarting bigger, stronger predators." Jin Wu continued. "We learned to observe, to predict, to use our environment. We became predators later, but we never forgot those early lessons. The parasites are acting like perfect predators," Sun Mai explained. "They adapt to attacks, they learn quickly, they work as a group, but they have a predator's weaknesses too. They're overconfident. They follow their instincts, and they expect their prey to act like prey, to run, to hide, to be predictable." Do-hyun looked at the council members. "We don't need stronger weapons. We need to change the rules of the game. And humans are very, very good at that." The council members discussed among themselves. The humans waited patiently, knowing that their next move would either save the colonists or prove the aliens right about humanity's weakness. Finally, Elder Sage spoke. "You have 20 hours before the colonists' life support fails. What do you need?" "First," Du-hyun said, "we need the station's environmental controls. All of them. Those systems are damaged." A council technician objected. "The parasites have torn up many of the control circuits." Hanul smiled slightly. "That's actually perfect. Sometimes broken things are more useful than working ones." "Second," Sun Mai continued, "we need volunteers from the colonists. Just a few, and they need to be able to follow instructions exactly." "You want to put more people in danger?" Vex demanded. "No," Jae-yun replied calmly. We want to give them a chance to save themselves. Sometimes the best rescuers are the ones who need rescuing. And third, Elder Sage asked. Third, Du Hyun said, we need everyone to stay out of our way. What we're going to do will look crazy. It will look wrong. Every military instinct you have will tell you to stop us. You need to let us work. The council chamber erupted in argument. Some members supported giving the humans a chance, while others thought it was suicidal madness. The humans waited patiently until Elder Sage raised his branches for silence. 20 hours until the colonists die, he said simply. 17 hours until the parasites reach the life support systems. The humans have permission to try their plan. As Du Hyun and his team left to prepare, they heard the aliens still arguing behind them. Most thought they were walking to their deaths. Some admired their bravery while pitying their foolishness. None of them understood what they were about to see. They had watched humans facing a crisis and assumed they were seeing humanity's limits. Instead, they were about to witness humanity's greatest strength, the ability to be more terrifying than the monsters they faced. Ready? Du Hyun asked his team. They nodded, their faces showing the intense focus that humans got when faced with an impossible challenge. They weren't afraid. They weren't overconfident. They were simply ready to show the galaxy why humans had survived everything their own world had thrown at them. The hunt was about to begin. But this time, the predators were about to learn what it meant to face a species that had mastered both roles, predator and prey, and could switch between them at will. The human team worked quickly. Engineer Hae Newell connected his tablet to the station's environmental systems, while Security Chief Sun Mai spoke with the trapped colonists through the communication system. Medical Officer Jin Woo prepared special equipment in the Determination's medical bay. Captain Du Hyun stood in the observation room with Ambassador Jae Yun, watching the parasites move through the station on the security feeds. The aliens had given them full control, though many doubted it would make any difference. All systems ready, Hae Newell reported. I can control temperature, air pressure, and gravity in most sections. The damaged areas might respond unpredictably. Perfect, Du Hyun said. The more unpredictable, the better. Sun Mai, how are our volunteers? 6 colonists have agreed to help. They're in position and waiting for instructions. Du Hyun looked at his team. Remember, timing is everything. We only get one chance at this. The first part of their plan started quietly. Hae Newell began changing the temperature in different sections of the station. Some areas became very hot, others very cold. The parasites, following their instincts, began moving toward the warmer sections. They're grouping up, Jin Woo observed, just like we predicted. The alien observers watched in confusion. High Commander Vex's voice came through the communication system. You're making them gather together. They're stronger in groups. Exactly, Sun Mai said quietly. Get them to do what they think works best. Then change the rules. Once the parasites had gathered in the warmer sections, Hae Newell started the next phase. He turned off the gravity in those sections while increasing it in others. The parasites, never having experienced zero gravity, began floating helplessly. Now, Du Hyun ordered. Sun Mi gave the signal to the volunteer colonists. They opened specific doors and air vents at exactly the right moments. The sudden rush of air created currents through the station's corridors, turning them into wind tunnels. The floating parasites were caught in the artificial wind. They tried to grab walls and pipes, but the changing gravity made it impossible. Soon hundreds of them were being pulled through the station's corridors, following the paths Hae Newell had created. They're adapting, someone shouted. Indeed, some parasites were already learning to move in zero gravity, using their claws to push off surfaces. Good, Sun Mai said. Time for Phase 2. Hae Newell activated more controls. Sections of the station that had been freezing cold suddenly became very hot. Areas of high gravity switched to low. The parasites found themselves being pulled in different directions, unable to predict what would happen next. Their biggest strength is adapting, Jin Woo explained to the watching aliens. but they can only adapt to one thing at a time. Give them too many changes at once. The parasites were clearly struggling. Their organized groups fell apart as each creature tried to deal with the changing conditions. Some tried to retreat to safer areas, but Sunmi's volunteer colonists closed doors and vents behind them, following her carefully planned sequence. They're not just animals, Jia added. They're intelligent. They can learn and plan, but that means they can also feel confusion, uncertainty, fear. The aliens watched in amazement as the mighty creatures that had defeated the Vesperi were reduced to chaos. But the humans weren't done yet. Phase 3, Du-hyun ordered. Hum-Nul entered the final commands. The station's damaged systems, which the parasites had torn up during their invasion, suddenly became weapons. Broken climate controls released bursts of superheated and supercooled air. Damaged gravity plates created pockets of intense gravity followed by zero-G. The maintenance tunnels, Sunmi commanded through her comm system. The volunteer colonists activated emergency systems that sealed off sections of the maintenance tunnels. Parasites that had used these tunnels to move freely now found themselves trapped. They're splitting into smaller groups, Jinwoo reported. Survival instinct is taking over. They're looking for safe spaces. That's their mistake, Du-hyun said. On this station, we decide what's safe. Section by section, the humans herded the parasites toward specific areas. When the creatures tried to adapt to one condition, they were hit with something completely different. When they tried to plan ahead, the humans changed the pattern. Look at their movement, Hae-Nul said, pointing to his screen. They're starting to panic. They'd lost their coordination. The aliens observing the operation were silent now. They watched as humans, who they had dismissed as soft and weak, systematically took apart one of the most dangerous species in the galaxy's history. Final phase, Du-hyun announced. The last stage of the plan was the simplest. With the parasites confused, separated, and struggling to adapt, the humans used the station's systems to push them toward the cargo airlocks. Some creatures tried to resist, but they couldn't fight the combination of wind currents, gravity changes, and temperature shifts. Airlock seals confirmed, Hae-Nul reported. Over 90% of the parasites are contained. Do-hyun looked at the council members watching through the video feed. We've trapped them. You can space them now, or keep them for study. Your choice. Either way, they won't be hurting anyone else. The operation had taken less than 10 hours. Not a single human had directly fought a parasite. Not one shot had been fired. Instead, they had turned the entire station into a weapon, using the parasite's strengths against them. Elder Sage's voice came through the communication system. How did you know this would work? Because we understand what it means to be hunted, Jia answered. Our ancestors survived by learning to think differently, by turning disadvantages into advantages, by being more creative than the things trying to kill them. But more importantly, Du-hyun added, we learned that true strength isn't about having the biggest weapons or the strongest armor. It's about being able to change, to adapt, to think beyond normal solutions. The rescue operation wasn't quite over. The colonists still needed to be evacuated, and parts of the station would need major repairs. But the main threat was gone, defeated not by force but by human ingenuity. As Du-hyun's team began helping with the evacuation, he noticed the alien observers looking at them differently. The dismissive attitudes were gone, replaced by something that looked like respect, or maybe fear. High Commander Vex approached them as they worked. His proud stance was gone, replaced by a more thoughtful posture. We were wrong about your species, he said quietly. You are not weak at all. No, Du-hyun agreed. We're not weak. We're just different. And sometimes, different is exactly what you need. The aliens had wanted to see humanity's strength. Instead, they had seen something far more important. Humanity's ability to turn weakness into strength, to outthink instead of outfight, and to be more terrifying than the monsters when necessary. The galaxy would never look at humans quite the same way again. 1 month after the parasite incident, Captain Do-hyun Kim stood once again in the Galactic Council chamber. This time, no one made dismissive gestures when the human delegation entered. Instead, the chamber was filled with a respectful silence. Ambassador Jae-yun walked to the center of the chamber with quiet confidence. The past month had been busy. News of how humans had defeated the parasites had spread through the galaxy. Many species had requested information about human problem-solving methods. Some had even asked for human advisors to join their crisis response teams. Elder Sage's leaves glowed softly as he addressed the chamber. 1 month ago, Earth requested membership in the Galactic Council. Today, we make our decision. High Commander Vex stepped forward. The Vesperi leader had changed since the incident. He stood less rigidly now, and his antennae moved in what humans had learned was a gesture of respect. Before the vote, Vex said, "I wish to speak." He turned to face the human delegation. "My people have been warriors for 10,000 years. We believe that strength came from power, from weapons, from armor. You showed us a different kind of strength." Engineer Hae Newell sat with Medical Officer Jin Woo and Security Chief Sun Mai in the observer section. They had spent the past month helping repair the mining station and studying the few parasite specimens that had been captured for research. The experience had taught both humans and aliens new things about working together. The humans did not just save the colonists, Vex continued. They showed us that we had become too rigid in our thinking, too proud, too certain that our way was the only way. Counselor Tell, the being of floating lights, moved forward. "We have analyzed the human response to the crisis. They used minimal resources, caused minimal damage, found a solution that saved lives rather than took them. These are the qualities we need in the galaxy." Do-hyun watched as more council members spoke. Each one highlighted different aspects of humanity's approach. Some admired their creativity. Others praised their ability to work under pressure. Many noted how humans had shared their knowledge freely after the crisis, helping other species understand their methods. "The vote will now begin," Elder Sage announced. The voting process was simple. Each council member would illuminate their platform, either blue for acceptance or red for rejection. Do-hyun held his breath as the lights began to appear. Blue, blue, blue. Platform after platform lit up blue. Even the Vesperi, who had once dismissed humans as weak, voted for acceptance. When the final vote was counted, it was unanimous. "Earth is hereby granted full membership in the Galactic Council," Elder Sage declared. "Ambassador Park, please take your species' place among us." As Jae-yun moved to the newly created human platform, Do-hyun reflected on how much had changed. The aliens no longer saw humans as soft creatures who had barely left their solar system. Now they saw humanity's true nature, adaptable, innovative, and capable of being terrifying when necessary. "Captain Kim," Vex called out as the ceremony ended, "my people have a question for yours." "What is it, High Commander?" "We understand now that humans can be as dangerous as any species in the galaxy, perhaps more dangerous, because you think in ways we cannot predict. Yet you choose to be peaceful, to be diplomatic. Why?" Do-hyun smiled slightly. "Because true strength isn't about proving you can win the fight. It's about knowing you can win, but choosing not to fight unless absolutely necessary." Later, on the Determination's observation deck, Do-hyun's team gathered to watch the station's lights. Earth's flag now flew alongside those of other council members. "They're still afraid of us," Sun Mai observed. "Not like they fear the parasites or other dangerous species. They fear us because they don't know what we'll do next." "Good," Hae Newell said. "A little fear can lead to respect, and respect can lead to understanding." Jin Woo nodded. They needed to see that being different from what they expected wasn't a weakness. It was our greatest strength. Ambassador Jae-yun joined them, carrying the data tablet. "We've received 17 requests for human advisors in the past hour alone. The galaxy has realized that sometimes you need people who think differently." "And what about the parasites they kept for study?" Do-hyun asked. "Dead," Jin Woo reported. They couldn't adapt to long-term captivity. They were too specialized, too focused on being perfect predators. They didn't know how to change their basic nature. Unlike humans, Jai-yun added, we're always changing, always adapting. That's what makes us special. Do-hyun looked out at the stars. Humanity had taken its place among the galaxy's great civilizations, but they had done it their own way, not by copying the strength of others, but by showing the power of being different. What happens now? Sunma asked. Now, Do-hyun smiled. Now we show them what humanity can really do. Not through force or fear, but through innovation, through adaptation, through understanding that being terrifying doesn't mean you have to be terrible. As the determination prepared for its next mission, the galaxy was already changing. Species that had never worked together were sharing ideas. Rigid military forces were learning to be more flexible. And everyone was paying very close attention to the soft, seemingly weak creatures from Earth who had proven to be the most fascinating and terrifying species of all. Not because humans were the strongest or the most advanced or the most warlike, but because humans had mastered the greatest power in the universe, the ability to change, to adapt, and to turn any weakness into a strength. The galaxy would never be the same. And that was exactly what humanity had hoped for all along.